a ring notification. It's like there's motion in your backyard. It's just a naked guy on all fours.
Yeah, it's
drinking beer.
hunched over,
Oh,
lapping it
no.
up.
I sent you and a bunch of guys nudes last weekend, and
Yeah.
none of you thanked me for them. Am I that ugly?
You know, the thing is we were all hanging out over at the orchard, right? We were all hanging out with Johnny. We had Flam, we had Too Tall, and we had a bunch of guys that were hanging out on the Discord stream. So there was a lot of people that got to see some very scandalous photos of you, and it was a lot of fun. It was the hit of the party, that's for sure.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I wish I could have came. It was just an insane weekend. Like all my immediate family was out of town, so I was the one holding down the fort, so I couldn't also leave.
That Flam is he's a character, man. He is an awesome guy. So we're gonna have to get you guys together. But we are here today. We've got Corey from Phocas Seeds. So I appreciate you coming to join us, dude. I know it's early in the morning. We're getting you up, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. So I've got to meet you a couple times. We met. I think the first time we met was over at Expo Canna. I think that's what it was called. Quite a while ago. And then I found you through a mutual friend that we have, is Tig, that was actually just recently on here with us. And
you did it.
I did it. I'm gonna get his name right. I won't fuck it up anymore. So I don't know why I've always wanted to say I Stig. That's just what always kind of just rolled off my tongue, but we'll get it right. We got it. So I met him through you. He's had nothing but high praise for you. You know, your work. We're gonna get into a lot of this, but he's grown out some of your. I think he said he had grown some testers or some seeds that he had gotten from you, and so y'all have him to thank for having Corey here with us today. So we got to meet just recently at an autoflower class that you do, right?
Yeah. So that was over in East Hartford at the Elevated Lounge. Like a promo company puts together some classes there once a month. So yeah, different workshops, stuff about growing, smoking.
It's a really cool joint that they got over there, and it's funny, and I'm glad that we're transitioning to this, because there was a funny story that I forgot to tell when he was on with us. It was the weekend just after we had gone to see you, and so for anybody that hasn't been there, it's like this big warehouse, and they've reconfigured it into smaller suites and stuff like that. But as most things in New England, it was an afterthought, right? So they just kind of jam a bunch of shit into an area, and it's not really laid out well. They don't have any signs. And, you know, of course, there may have been some consumption before we had gotten there. So we were already just a little cloudy. And we're walking in, and we saw one of the guys that was hosting the event. And he meets us at the door. He goes, "Oh, you guys here with Corey?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're looking for, we're here for the class. We're here to hang out." And I was like, my face had just gone like blank, because he goes, "Okay, go up the hallway, go to the left, and then right, and then you're gonna see a door." And I was like, I had just gone blank. Like it was like he was talking to a wall. So I was like, I didn't take in any of the information that he was telling me, and I was just hoping that Istig was taking some of this in, and we were going to make it to where we were going. Other than the smell of marijuana, I couldn't tell where the fuck we were going, because it was just like these random hallways with no signs. And like, as we were getting closer, I was like, I smell something. I think we're in the right area. We get to the door, we knock. We're like, this door smells like someone's smoking behind us. We're like, this has got to be it. Started knocking. Nobody answered. It's like, well, we must be in the wrong area. So we went down the hall, and then we're just roaming around the building. We're both giggling. We're like, well, this is it. We just give up. We have no clue what the fuck's going on. and then we ended up finding you. I think that's a good point for us to kind of start. What is your preferred method of growing, and how long have you been growing?
Well, so I'm an organic grower, I would say, mostly outdoor. So my company,
Okay.
Phocas Seeds, is a small seed company and seed farm. So I specialize in vegetable, tobacco, and cannabis seeds. My
Okay.
seeds are open-pollinated and heirloom varieties. And so
How
I don't
long
know
have you been
which.
working with a lot of these?
Yeah, so
Uh,
a lot of these varieties I've been working with for over, almost 10 years now. I started out as a vegetable grower, ran a CSA farm, doing, farmers markets, restaurants, that type of deal, and then I transitioned into doing the seed saving and plant breeding.
okay. All right. So let's what was kind of your first introduction? Because I know we've talked about this, kind of your background in growing. When's really the first time that what made you get into um wanting to be in the horticultural, area? Like what started this and how old were you?
Yeah, so I was in my early 20s and I was basically trying to figure out what to do with my life. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
just thinking
That's
back to
the
like
age.
how I grew up. I grew up on a small hobby farm over in Bantam, Connecticut. We
Okay.
had some acreage, pigs, fruit trees, big garden, all that. So my family comes from they're a farming family out of Pennsylvania. So
Very
I was
nice.
always in nature outside as a kid. Grew up in that, doing that kind of stuff, hunting, fishing. So I was like, all right, well, what do I like? What am I interested in? And at the time, I was doing closet grows with weed,
Yeah.
and
Little
so I was
gorilla
like, well,
grows out in the woods or some shit.
yeah, yeah. I stringed up some fluorescent lights in a closet, and
There you
was
go.
had like soda bottles cut in half and growing plants in them and stuff like that. I had no idea what I was really doing, but
That's awesome, man.
but
No, that's
I
that's awesome.
decided I got a book on textbook on horticulture, and I was like, well, if I can sit down and read this whole book and I'm not like bored to tears, then maybe I'll go back to school for horticulture. And so that's what I ended up doing. And then I
Okay.
got more into the farming scene after that.
No kidding. So obviously, so you're saying you kind of grew up around it. Obviously, it was in your family. You learned from your parents. Um, what made you start your journey down the path of kind of with the plant? I mean, obviously, and growing vegetables and this and that. Um, what made you start getting in with cannabis and all that stuff?
Yeah, originally it was just because I didn't want to pay for it, and the quality around my area at the time was pretty poor.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. You guys are around the same age, so I don't know if you remember like
Yeah.
middies, like straight midweed, like brickweed
Yeah.
press with seeds in it. Like
Oh yeah.
that's what you would get, and then sometimes we call it like kind bud or beasters or whatever, and it
Yeah.
would just be like nicer nuggets that weren't pressed that didn't have seed in them. But even that stuff was like at the time like 50-60 bucks an eighth sometimes if you could find it, and it was it's just how it was back then. So
Yep.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's funny to think, man, like, the next generations are never going to be like, and not only was it just like crappier bud that we were getting, like just not great quality, but it being so illegal, right? Like the folks that you would kind of have to deal with, or the situations that you were to put into, um were not always the best. And it's funny to think that, down the line these kids are never going to realize, like, yeah, you almost got stabbed or shot for just buying fucking weed.
Yeah.
What's a
Yeah.
not spot, Daddy?
I have some cousins with my I've got some stories with me and my cousin trying to pick up bud sometimes over in Waterbury, and it got a little sketchy once in a
Oh, I
while.
bet.
So
I
yeah.
bet. Yeah. Oh my goodness. But so you got into growing your first, from what you had just mentioned. You were growing in a closet and you were using some kind of lights. Walk us through kind of what your first grow was and how all that went. Like what did you end up doing?
My first go was actually pretty embarrassing. I yielded all right, but I just had some bag seed, and this must have been like, oh man, '09 or something like that,
Okay.
2010, sometime around there. So
Yeah.
15 years ago. Yeah, so I was just in a closet. I bought some decent like T5s, I think they were, fluorescent lights from Home Depot. I
Yeah.
had some soda bottles that I cut in half, and I just got some organic soil from, whatever they had that at Home Depot, put them in there, went to a local grow shop. I got some, like some fertilizer, just whatever it was, like, Super Bloom. I don't even remember the brand, and just, it just rocked it in the closet, man. And I got like, a couple half-gallon mason jars out of it. But and it was all right. It wasn't bad. It was like some brickweed seeds, and but I remember smoking on it though and being like, wow, this is actually like pretty decent. And it wasn't what was, from the bag. From what I got in the bag was like kind of garbage compared to what I actually grew out of it myself. So yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I am definitely of the belief that home grow, especially if you're growing it your own, right? Like we can get woo-woo with it or whatever, but like growing your own, it's just kind of like you have this a little bit more of a special connection with it, I think. And it's anytime I open up a jar of my own, it's always, whether it's crappy or not, right? Like I grew it myself, I put my effort into it, and it's just something always special to me. And I think there's definitely more of a there's definitely better quality in home grow, especially because you never know who you're getting it from.
Yeah, I remember actually being able to see the trichromes, like you'd actually see like them glisten. I was like, oh, this is it right here. So
that's what got you your first closet grow, and you're like, this is it. I'm going with it. I'm going to continue to grow. So you've been continually growing since then?
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple times, like maybe 6 months a year, where I changed apartments or something like that. But yeah, ever since then, I've basically been growing. So, yep.
That's awesome, man. So, you've been an organic grower since day one. Have you ever tried any of the other type of stuff, or is it pretty much just been?
Yeah, I'm mostly organics. I mean, I have grown hydroponic like setups in greenhouses, and I've done like flood and drain systems and stuff like that. But I've run a few like 10 by 10 rooms doing flood and drain, but not.
Nice.
I didn't really like it. It wasn't really my thing. So I like to stick to the soil.
Yeah, I think I would say well, at least the both of us are organic growers. I didn't first start, and we both started with the Fox Farm, nutrient line, but quickly switched over. And I think most of our listeners, I would say a good majority of them are organic growers. So you're on Team Organics for sure.
Good. Nothing wrong if you like to run some salts.
Not at all. In fact, there was one of our buddies, Jay Saw. He just posted a picture of his most recent harvest, and he uses Athena, and the plants that I see people coming out with that are just absolutely amazing. So yeah, no shade to the salt salt people, but organic's the way to go. You've been growing cannabis for quite some time. What was it that ended up bringing you down the line of, okay, now I want to breed it, and what kind of made you make those selections?
Yeah, I mean, at first I started with photoperiod plants, and it was mainly because at the time, a buddy of mine and I were like growing at a pretty decent scale, like a smaller scale, but we were starting to sell like flower. And we just wanted to have varieties that like people didn't have at the time.
Yeah.
And just have something that was a little bit more like local to our area that could kind of differentiate us. So I started making some crosses with just some photoperiod stuff, that we had gone and gotten seeds of. And then, that we were doing that for a little while. And then I started messing around with autos, just because I wanted to see kind of where they come from. I've grown them back in the day. I grew like lowriders and stuff like that. And that must have been like 2014, and they weren't that great. So I kind of wanted to see what was new. And I started messing around with those, and I really liked them for my own personal stash. They were a little bit easier to manage, a little bit quicker. You could do them like a few plants in a small tent, and they've definitely come a long way since 10 years ago.
And neither one of us have been growing that long, so I don't have any personal experience with the lowrider. So you've seen them kind of shift from being the ditchweed and then the thing that everybody talks crap about, right? And now they're becoming, good contenders, and there's people even saying they're passing, right? They're gonna pass photos and this and that, and that's a whole nother talk for another time of who's doing what. But I think it seems that, at least from what I've seen, a lot of people are shifting where these autoflowers are getting pretty amazing at what they can do, and they're holding their own.
Yeah, for sure. And then especially if you're an outdoor grower, I think they have a special place. Here in New England, we have a shorter season, and a lot of the varieties that people are familiar with or that are popular, they're grown on the West Coast, or they're bred for growing indoors. And I think that's a niche that autos can really fill. Get your early harvest outside, easy to grow, and then you can still grow your photos and then get a later harvest.
Other than obviously, your auto flowers that you make, what's other companies that you like to support or have grown? Any auto flowers that have kind of poked out? You're like, oh, that's something that's special that you see.
I mean, there's a few companies like Atlas is doing a lot of outdoor breeding stuff. I've grown some of Humboldt stuff. Some of it was okay.
Okay.
And other stuff like I really liked. It's kind of a mixed bag with autos. Even some of the older companies that have been around, like I've gotten some stuff from Dutch Passion and whatever, and it hasn't been great. But then Fast Buds I think has come a long way. Their quality is definitely gone up. I don't necessarily recommend people try those companies just because I think there's so many smaller growers that have better quality autos, and even just better customer service. Like even if you don't like their autos for whatever reason, like they're a small grower, they're handling the seed themselves, and that's what I think we really should support. So
that's exactly my feeling on it as well. There's a lot of companies that are out doing stuff, and I don't want to go down like what the hype stuff is or this or that, but again, it goes back to I rather support locally if I can, and I rather support the craft breeders. I want to be able to reach out to Corey from fucking Phocas Seeds about his seeds that I've got here and how his experience and what he noticed with it. You know what I mean? Like that's so much better than sending an email to Fast Buds or whoever it may be to just get a response from, well, they have like information over here, so they'll send you here. Like I'm definitely with you on that. Definitely support your craft breeders.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like I've noticed, like you were saying, what hype breeding. I think that's what a lot of it is now. It's a lot of crossing of the same stuff. So with craft breeders too, like if you like something they put out or you don't like something, they're going to take your feedback, and what the project they're going to work on is going to depend on that. Where these larger companies, they're just going to kind of just follow whatever they think the trend is.
So they don't give a fuck. They're just trying to make a buck.
Yeah. So
we're going to talk about a few of your cultivars that you have. I think you have, is it just auto flowers that you're doing? Or you also have some photos as well.
Yeah, I currently don't have any photos available. I'm stepping out of that. I've had like collabs that I've done and some limited release stuff, but I really want to focus on the autos. Because I do vegetables and tobacco and stuff too. Like I'm not one of these breeders who's like putting out a lot of like different cultivars or varieties every year. I literally have like 4 autoflowers that I've really worked on. And so I kind of just want to put my time into getting a little bit more cultivars out. So it's mainly just autoflowers. The 4 right now are Auto Maiden, which is the first autoflower I bred. It's a smaller plant, but it's got nice dense flowers. It's got some CBG in there, very good, for nice. Pain, inflammation, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Then I have the Sherman's Tactics, which is like my nice big purple autoflower I bred for outdoors. I did a ton of selections.
I think you just posted that yesterday, right? One of the
and that's on the F5 generation. So, and that's a regular autoflower. Nice. So the price point on the seeds is good. And then I did a cross with the Auto Maiden and then that's my little sister, which is it's got a little bit more variation. It's on the F2. So it's similar to the Auto Maiden, but a little bit larger plant, which is nice because I know that's what more people are looking for, larger autos now. I kind of noticed that. So that's a good one. And then I have the Podunk Black Ops, which is kind of my new flagship auto. It's cross of a Black Chem Photo to the Sherman's Tactics, and then I bred it into an auto. But that one's, if you want a good yielder, that's the plant to go to. Great for hash.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say talk about that because I know that was something that you had mentioned about it. That you said that it did really well in the resin department, has good yield on that.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, Marilyn Masher out of North Carolina, he's a hash breeder, and he bred the Black Chem, and I selected the cut from his work. And nice. he's used that cut in his work, and then I used that for the cross of the Podunk Black Ops. So it's a nice hasher variety.
Hell yeah. Well, and speaking of that, there was, when I saw you at the that class, that Autoflower 101 class, you had given me a bunch of different seeds, but that Podunk, the F5, was one of the seeds that you gave me. And I would like to do where we're going to do a little giveaway for Christmas for our Discord folks. I always try to give back to the community in some kind of way over there. So we're going to, after we record this, we'll work up something for you folks over on Discord, and it will draw on Christmas Day. And then, a few days after that, I'll be able to get these out to whoever the winner is. So this is his Podunk Black Ops F5. So I've seen really good things about it, and I'm gonna have to go pick up a pack for myself now. But we'll have to do like a little grow along with some of get a bunch of us together and do that with some of your seeds. So I'm really excited to give that a try. There was something that I wanted to bring up, and partially one of the reasons why you're here. We had talked about tobacco, and this is something that I've been very interested in. And I had after I'd met you, I'd posted this on Instagram. There was a few buddies that had seen it, and they're like, "Oh shit, he's got tobacco." And I was specifically talking to Strong Island, and he's another amazing organic grower that's not too far from us, actually. So that's one thing that I do like about your stuff is it's bred for our area and it does really well. That's the stuff that you look for. So he was like, I'm going to get some tobacco seeds. And then we were talking back and forth, and we were like, well, why don't we just do a little grow together? And kind of like how we have over on the Alabrije Discord, they had the great pumpkin grow along this past season. I think over on Grateful Nerd, I'd like to do a tobacco grow along next season. So for anybody that's interested in growing along with us, we're going to create a little channel over there. I know Corey has some good information on his specific seeds and obviously tobacco cultivation in general. He's got a lot of different varieties from my understanding. Is that right?
Yeah, so I have mainly varieties from the East Coast of the United States. So, like, I have Connecticut broadleaf, a Maryland type, a Burley, and a Virginia type. So, yeah, basically, what the East Coast is known for in the United States is tobacco, and that's another passion of mine is growing tobacco and consuming tobacco. I love pipes and cigars, and and the occasional blunt. So, yeah.
I used to be a heavy cigarette smoker, and it took me a long time to quit. And I've recently gone back to vaping, which I hate. And I try to stay away from nicotine. I try because I'll just the slippery slope, and I'll be back to a pack and a half a day, and it's fucking expensive up here, and I just can't afford it. But I've heard really good things about people, growing their own tobacco, and obviously, you don't have all those chemicals and this and that. So I'm very excited about it. So for the grow along, we're gonna create that channel. It's gonna have all the information in there. Hopefully, we can bug Corey every once in a while for any information that he has on it. If you wouldn't mind, here we could kind of talk a little bit about tobacco. Kind of, obviously, there's going to be some people that are not just in our area, but different, down south or out west. I kind of like a little bit of like, what do you recommend for certain areas? If there's certain cultivars that you recommend as good beginner stuff, and when's a good time to start this stuff?
Yeah, so tobacco is an annual. You're going to grow it outdoors like any other annual. So you just want to make sure when you're going to grow it, that you plant it, when you're not going to have a frost.
Okay.
here in Connecticut, I usually start my plants in early April, and then I'm planting them out, second week of May. And a couple things to know about tobacco is, first off, the seeds are super tiny. So a lot of people think so people think like, oh, I'm going to put a bunch of seeds in the small container because they're probably not going to germinate. Tobacco has a super high germination rate. So what ends up happening is you get like 100 seedlings in like 2 square inches of soil.
Yeah.
So I tell people, like, if you're gonna, get a 4-inch pot, put a nice organic potting soil, and just put like 2 or 3 seeds in there, and then if they all germinate, just pinch back to the one that you want.
Okay.
And then, like I said, you're gonna be planting in, after your last frost, and then your harvesting is gonna be towards like the later half of summer, and then you're looking for those leaves to get nice and yellow at the bottom.
Okay.
Wait,
all right.
What were you gonna say?
So when we're starting them, are we wanting to start them kind of in like little peat pucks, smaller containers? Are you wanting to start them indoors and then kind of transition, or can you really just do a direct sow outside and just let it rip?
Yeah, like I said, because the seeds are so small, it's easier to start them indoors underneath the light. They don't need a lot of space when they first start growing. So yeah, like a little peat pot, or I was saying like a 4-inch pot or something like that for each plant is good. And then some lights. If obviously if you're growing cannabis, then most people have access to grow lights that are totally adequate for that sort of thing. And as far as varieties that are easy to grow, I find like the Burleys and the Maryland types are very easy to grow. I think all tobacco mainly grows the same. It's when you get to that curing phase where I think people really struggle. What happens is like they either pick their leaves too early, or what they try and do is like dry them. They think of it like cannabis, where you want to have a lower humidity.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want with tobacco. Basically, you're not trying to dry the leaf, you're trying to cure it. You're trying to have it break down all the chlorophyll in the leaf. So all like those nice sugars and carbohydrates and all that stuff. So that stuff, it's starting to break down. It gives it some flavor. Because normally if you dry it, what's going to happen is the leaf's going to stay green, and it's going to just have this like ammonia, like awful taste to it, which is not what you want. You want a nice rich flavor. You want it to taste like, especially if you're growing in Virginia, you want it to taste sweet. You can get some of them to taste like brown sugar if you cure them.
Oh, no kidding.
So you want a higher humidity for a longer period of time. So
okay. Yeah, this is I have a feel. So I mean, it's sounding a lot like cannabis, right? You could grow this absolutely beautiful plant, and if you fuck up the dry, you got nothing. I mean, what do you even do with so you harvest it, you dry it, and you fuck it up? There's nothing that you can do, right? I mean, it's pretty much just compost or whatever at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you can make some some fermented tobacco juice and spray it on your plants or something like that for a pesticide. But
there you go.
I don't know if you guys are into like I don't know if guys are into like Korean natural farming or Jadam, but they use that in some of their preparations.
Yeah, we do a little bit.
Okay, tobacco is good for that, but that's a good, I guess, if you see it as like instead of you just composting it, you could make that with it. But yeah, it's same thing with cannabis. Like if you mess up the dry, like there's not really too much you can do after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a feeling that that's probably going to be me, but
it's
what
right.
it is.
it's really not that hard. It's like for most cannabis growers, it's just that little change in thinking, and you really won't have a problem. It's really not that hard.
If you think so like if we're thinking about it, like when harvest time comes around New England, right, we're starting to get it's getting a little bit cold, but we usually have high humidity, right? So I mean, getting towards that end of that season, and that may be good for tobacco specifically, right? I mean, like you're saying, what's the ranges that you want to have for when you're dry, curing your tobacco?
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone's driven around New England, especially in Connecticut. You'll see like old tobacco barns, especially up in the north part of the state. And so our climate is basically perfect for curing tobacco.
Nice.
What you want is a humidity around like 65 to 75 degrees, or relative, 65 to 70% relative humidity, and under like 75 degrees. And so basically any if you got like a barn or a garage, or even if you put like like a shelter, you have like a shelter or something. So you just don't want direct sunlight. And then if you hang it, like I said, as long as you're within that humidity range, it's going to cure fine. And it'll take anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 weeks, depending on the variety, for it to fully cure. But then once it's fully cured, what I would do is bring the humidity down a little bit. Obviously, if you bring it inside, it's probably going to be less humid. So you want to keep it around 60-65% relative humidity once it's fully cured. And then if it is a little bit brittle or something when you're working with it, you want to roll a blunt. Just like put it between a couple damp paper towels, spray it with a little water, something like that, and get it to be pliable again.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I'm really excited about is making some of my own blunt wraps. I'm not a big blunt smoker, but I have heard of really good taste from growing your own compared to obviously buying something out of a package. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, tobacco's, like you were saying before, the cigarettes, tobacco's kind of a bad rap, but I feel like if you use it properly, it really is beneficial in my opinion. So
yeah, well, it's probably similar to like the difference between like eating a Hostess cupcake versus making a cake from scratch kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Or like mainstream tobacco is very processed.
Yes.
Yeah, and also like cigarettes you're inhaling, which traditional pipe and cigar tobacco you're not inhaling. So you're still getting the effects from the nicotine, but not in the crazy numbers you would. It's like cigarettes have like 100 times more nicotine absorption into your body because you're inhaling it than like pipe tobacco or a cigar. So it affects your body differently, but you still get an effect from it.
So you have a podcast of your own, and it's a lot of informative stuff. You have some really great people come on. Your last episode, you had another local guy that talked about some mushrooms, but I've listened to your tobacco cultivation one, and it's really awesome to be able to. You obviously have a lot of knowledge on it, and it's cool. I haven't gone way back in your in everything that you've recorded, but it's really cool all the stuff that you have, on your podcast.
Yeah, I try to keep it, informational. I do have some conversational stuff, but I want to have evergreen topics. People, stuff people can go back to. I did a 2-part little series on chicken breeding with my buddy out of Pennsylvania, Chris from Esoteric Agriculture. Yeah, and we went over like how to breed chickens without using an incubator. So if you want to have like the mother brood, brood the chicks and all that, he goes in and how to do it. So yeah, I just try to have, kind of homesteading, gardening, farming type stuff, things you can go back to again and again,
No, it's great. You do a good job with it. You definitely do a good job. How long have you been doing that podcast?
For 4 years now. I can't say I'm very regular with it. I do maybe 3 or 4 episodes a year now, but
okay.
But I try to find a good topic. Yeah. It's hard. When I first started, I was like, oh man, I'm going to do this like every other week, and it didn't happen. So you guys really seem to have a good schedule though, getting content out there all the time. So I commend you for that.
Well, yeah, we try.
We have a similar strategy, I think, right? Because we do every other week podcast, and then the rest of the time we try to make like evergreen stuff.
Yeah.
He cracks the whip over there. He's like, "Hey, you haven't recorded a little bit. What the fuck you doing, man?"
That's what you need. Like, I'm by myself, so I'm like, I'm not too busy, or I don't feel like it. It doesn't get done. It's good when you get somebody else kind of prodding you to get things going.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if it was just me on my own putting out, I mean, obviously, I can't fucking edit. I can't do any of that stuff, and he's the mastermind behind all that. But yeah, if it was just me, I'd be like, I might put something out. I don't know, but it's nice. It is nice. We work well as a team, so it's been fun doing it. I think we're getting close to a year. Well, we're over a year that we've been doing the reels and stuff, but I don't know how long.
We started January.
So
we're close, like a couple weeks, and it'll be we've been making content together for a year.
Yeah,
nice.
Oh
yeah. I saw some of your YouTube videos. They're doing real well.
Yeah, it boggles my mind that anybody would want to watch me fucking ramble on for however long it is that I in fact we do have some comments on some videos like, does this dude ever shut the fuck up? But no, welcome to my channel and welcome to me that just doesn't. So other than tobacco, what else is it that you what you do? A bunch of different veggies. Walk us through some of that.
Yeah, so I also offer vegetable seeds. So, like I said before, they're open pollinated and heirloom varieties. I try to find a lot of rare, unique stuff, especially things, like I said before, that grow well on the East Coast. The difference between me and a lot of the other heirloom seed companies is these other heirloom seed companies, especially the big ones, they order a lot of seed from distributors, or they get them from overseas or different parts of the country. Sometimes that means that that plant is just not going to grow well in your area. It's not adapted to it. The biggest complaint that I hear from people is trying to grow peppers in Connecticut. They say, okay, I bought this pepper plant from like Home Depot, or I ordered some seeds from this, big seed company or whatever. And, I get this nice looking pepper plant, but I get like one giant bell pepper on it, like by the end of the season. And I'm like, well, that pepper was probably bred or grown in a greenhouse in California or in India or China. Yeah. And, it's just not going to grow well in a shorter growing season with more humidity, different soil conditions, all that. So, like peppers are a big thing of mine. I have I think like almost a dozen varieties of peppers, something like that on there. Nice. Like I said, everything's going to grow well here. And I have some kind of rare stuff too. I have like a Nepalese hot pepper that was gifted to me, from a friend from Nepal, and then I grew that here for a few years and adapted the seeds to our growing conditions. And if you want to grow a giant pepper plant, I've gotten those things like 6 feet tall with leaves almost the size of my hand. And
shit.
Yeah, it's crazy because the peppers on them are super tiny. They're like the size of a cherry, but they're wicked hot. And they use them in Nepal to make a chili paste, a fermented chili paste. So they're very oily.
Oh man,
it's a very, very unique pepper.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to as we get closer, very soon. I'll come to you and because I've been doing where my back. I've been trying to grow my back garden each year and just get a little bit better at it. I kind of fell short a little bit last year. I think we had talked about the pests just wrecked me the first month or so, and it really put me down. I was like, fuck man, like I'm wasting all this money. And so I want to start from good seeds, and I'm definitely going to come to you for what you would recommend, because I just I did not do well last year. It was a real bummer.
Yeah, I mean
it was like half and half.
Yeah. Nerd, you got a garden outside too? Got a veggie garden?
This is my first year ever gardening anything.
Oh, okay.
So, including cannabis. I spent a year growing cannabis, and then this was my first summer gardening. I made 4 or 5 raised beds.
Yeah.
And
so he's got some.
I did one of peppers. You actually read my mind because I was looking at that exact pepper plant on your website. The one where it's like very bushy and that it's like the cherry-sized peppers with the little tips on them. Those look so cool.
Oh, those are the
couldn't get anything.
Oh, you're looking at the Pequeno peppers. Those are cool.
Yeah.
Those ones are actually not hot. Those are South American pepper, and they have like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the hotter chilies, like the flavor that they have. It's usually like a very citrusy flavor, and some of them kind of always have like a smoky taste to them. And the Pequenos are cool because they don't have the spice. They just have that kind of like citrusy, fruity flavor.
Cool.
But not hot at all. So people usually like pickle them, and they'll use them in like fancy charcuterie boards and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, my peppers did not do well, but I got a lot of cucumbers and tomatoes and green beans. It was pretty successful.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to make it more economical. That's where I've been trying to learn more about KNF and doing things like that, because I watched all these YouTube videos where the person did like a financial breakdown of their backyard garden, and they're like, I spent $300 to get $60 worth of produce or something, right? Which obviously, if you grew it yourself, it's gonna probably be better. But trying to get that cost down where it's at least like on par with being as economical as the grocery store. I mean, or maybe inflation will just take care of that on its own. But
yeah, I think that's one thing with backyard gardening people don't consider is a lot of the times, like by the time you put in all the labor and the cost, it's going to be more expensive than what you would buy at the grocery store, but the quality is way far and beyond what you could possibly get at the grocery store. So, and you can get a lot of cool different varieties that like you're not getting at a grocery store either. So that's another.
Yeah, so you have purple jalapenos as well.
Yep, purple jalapenos. Those are cool.
So that's what I'm gonna have to do, man. Is you and I, nerd, will have to kind of figure out what it is we want to get, and then we'll split the seed packs and we'll just grow the same shit. And then, I mean, technically, we'd be able to save those seeds from everything that we're getting and plant next year, right? Because I mean, they're all coming from Heirloom, and would that work? Or we have to make sure they're all pollinating and all that.
Yeah, I mean the only drawback to that doing it on a home gardener scale is if you're growing different varieties of the same crop together, there could be some cross pollination. But other than that, yeah, you could definitely save the seeds.
Hell yeah! And I imagine if they're going to do good in our area, they're going to be good in his area as well. He's not that far from us, so
yeah. I mean everything I grow is good for the East Coast, and like I've had people all over the country buy seed from me, and the feedback I get is they grow well. So, like I said, I try to strive for quality and good selection too. So that matters a lot. So I've had people grow out my stuff in Texas, and they were really impressed with it. So yeah,
nice. You're putting in the work, that's for certain.
Yeah. I try, man. It's humbling, but definitely.
So try. What's the plan going forward? Do you have any cool projects coming up or anything that you're really excited for?
I mean, I got a lot of projects. I don't even know where to. You say that, my brain starts going in 20 different directions, so I don't even know.
Let's say, imagine a guy like you has always got something going on. You probably got it. If you were to go back in the backlog of projects, you probably got years planned out if you were to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, I joke about having spreadsheets for my spreadsheets, but it's kind of true. So
that's when you use the database.
yeah. I'm getting to that point where I need something because it's getting a little ridiculous. But I mean, like for this season, I got another plot that I'm leasing, so I'm hoping to scale up some of my veggie seed production a little bit, and then nice. Like I said, for the cannabis, I'm transitioning, just doing autoflowers from here on out. So I got a bunch of different crosses and stuff to look through for the future. So yeah, it's a lot of projects. But
hell yeah! So is there are you? I know you probably can't say too much, but is there any like new seed releases that you're looking? Is there like a one that you're looking to work forward specifically to that is catching your eye?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much because either stuff doesn't work out or whatever. But I am looking to do some more crosses with my little sister into some different varieties. I want to kind of capture some more CBD and CBG, type 2 type stuff, just because I think that's it's good for medicinal use, which is, I think that's also overlooked with varieties that are released now that are kind of more hype, where people aren't really looking towards effects. They're looking more towards bag appeal and high THC content. So yeah, I want to work more with that stuff. So that's one of the things I'll be working on.
Awesome, man. Well, I can't wait to look forward to that. That's also one of the things that I like about Alabrije so much is he's got his offshoot of his medical brand, and so it's really cool to see that that just goes back to show the small craft breeders are caring about that stuff, right? They're the ones that are looking to further the medicinal value out of it instead of just selling it, saying, oh, the flower produces 30 to 40 THC, and that's all like, oh shit, so everybody's grabbing it. So it's nice to see that people are actually caring more about that. There was one thing I wanted to kind of do is, like, since it's right around Christmas, is there anything that either from the past or present about the holiday that you guys like, either a memory or something that you guys like to do around Christmas, something that brings you together. I'll start with Nerd. We'll let you think about it first. Go for it. I'm throwing you on the table. No,
for the holidays, I don't know. My big holiday is always Halloween over anything in the winter season. I don't know. I'm not a very traditionalist person. Like, we don't even have a Christmas tree.
No.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
We don't really decorate much or do like a lot of traditional stuff. But usually, spending time with family, you don't get to see through the rest of the year because you're super busy.
Yeah. Heck yeah. What about you, Corey?
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing too specific. Just it's a great time to spend family. We end up basically hanging out with my in-laws all day, so it's really chill. My wife's family is super chill, and it's just a very relaxing, nice day.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, one of the things that Christmas has Halloween and Christmas have always been really big in the family. Obviously, my mom's birthday is really close to Halloween, so that's her thing. But growing up, my grandparents were very into it, to the point where my grandmother actually had her house. It was like this little thing where people could take tours through it, because she had all of these those little villages, right? Each room had their own village. So growing up, that's what I remember, is my grandfather setting up these tables that had the little snow villages and the fucking train running through it. So as a young kid going to my grandparents' house, it was always like, that was just like, it's something that really was special to me. So I definitely miss those days of seeing all those crazy, just absolutely insane Christmas setups. But yeah, hanging out with family is definitely a great time of the season.
So people just like take tours through your grandparents' house?
So it was like, like she was just one of those, like, so they had these things like Weird New Jersey, right? Or like there was things where they were like people that had a bunch of decorations and you can kind of drive by. But yeah, she was part of this thing where like it was like in a magazine, like they gave the address and it was like, there's an open house at this time and you can come in and see all the shit. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Like, so that's why I like, for me, I mean, like, I'm not big, like, again, I don't decorate. Like, if it was up to me, I wouldn't have a Christmas tree. My wife wants to do it because we have, a daughter, and my daughter's getting to that age where it's like, that's what she wants. So we're trying to, but I think seeing all of that and having to deal with it and like helping them break stuff down and clean up, like, that was enough when I was younger. Like, I got it out then, and like now that it's me in charge, like, I don't want to have who knows how much money stashed away in little fucking Christmas villages and decorations, and then to fucking work a whole weekend of putting up decorations to then just have them and just take them down and store them the whole year for one day. Like, yeah, not really my thing either.
It's funny that you mentioned like the doing like a house tour thing. That reminds me of a place over where I grew up. There was a house that did the same thing, but it was crazy. It'd be like the whole outside, the whole inside of the house, and and I think it was like $5 to get in. And the guy would and he would have a line down the street, and every year, we would go through. It was like the Christmas house or whatever. Man.
That was my crazy grandparents' house.
It's funny too because like they lived in the house, so it's like you'd go through one room, like somebody's bedroom, but it's like all Christmas stuff everywhere. It's like, how do you guys even sleep?
Dude, it was wild. I mean, so she had a Christmas tree for every room, including the bathroom. There was a village in each room, so that means the kitchen had one, the bathrooms had one. Each room, it was an absolute like, when I say like, it's just it reminds, it was so crazy and wild, and to be like a little kid to walk into like the fucking Christmas wonderland, I was like, holy shit, what the, so that's something that's always just kind of stuck with me, and that's why we don't normally do those questions like that, but it's just something that's always been special to me. The one thing that I did want to ask you about, because I know we talked just a little bit about the IPM for outdoor, right? That's what really screwed me up last year, and you had kind of given me some tips. The one thing that I did I didn't like about that place that we had went to for your class was the fucking people that like sat right across from us just didn't shut the fuck up. Right.
Yeah.
So, like, it was just going on. And then it would be like, then they would ask a question. And I just wanted to be like, well, if you would shut the fuck up, he already answered you like 5 minutes ago. So it was hard to hear you at times, but yeah, let's hear about some IPM stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess my question to you is what are some things that you thought you could do better in your garden? Or like, what are some of the issues you had?
So what I noticed, so this was kind of my plan. My first year that I gardened here, I just kind of planted and I didn't really know what I was doing, and it didn't do quite well. Mainly because I just didn't do anything. It was my first year. I just kind of want to see what would happen. The second year, I was like, well, we're just going to hit it hard. And I planted everything really close. And it was just kind of like I had played the numbers game. I was like, well, I'll just have plants to sacrifice to the insects. And then, they'll leave the ones that are over here, they'll leave. I'll just have so many tomato plants that I'll at least get one plant and they can have 5 or so, you know what I mean? Like that was my thinking. And then this year, I tried to kind of so the slugs were absolutely insane. And I think that was our biggest thing that we had a problem with. I didn't notice much this year on the way of damage, but we definitely have caterpillars and stuff like that. So like my goal is I want to be able to plant my garden and be like, okay, I've got 2 pepper plants, and I want to be able to harvest those 2 pepper plants and not have like sacrificial type stuff, and just focus on getting good plants instead of getting fucking 5 different iterations of seedlings going outside because the fucking slugs have mowed them down over and over again.
Yeah, I think a lot of people overplant. That's definitely an issue. And yeah, you think, okay, I'm going to sacrifice these plants to pests or whatever. But the problem with that is once they find a nice host, they're just more of them are going to come in. So less is more in that respect. You kind of want to keep your plant population to a manageable size, and then when you do see any pests or cropping up on them, you don't want to just let them kind of take over either. As far as slugs, like old school, like some beer, like some cheap beer in like a shallow dish actually still works. You can get another product called Sluggo, which is like it's all it is iron phosphate. But it's like just coated. And it's usually coated with some type of sugar or something like that. And then the slugs will eat it and the iron phosphate just kills them. So it's nothing really harmful for you or your garden. It's just, like I said, iron and phosphorus. So yeah, so those are two easy things for slugs. And then also the kind of mulch you use. So if you're using a mulch that kind of can dry out, like instead of staying really like wet and moist. So instead of using like, a lot of people like chop leaves and stuff, but if we get a lot of rain, they get a little slimy. Slugs love that. So you can even try doing like some chopped straw or rice hulls instead, something that's going to be a little bit more fluffier and drier. But yeah, and then diatomaceous earth too. So if you go out there, especially in the morning when you see slugs out kind of active, you can just sprinkle some diatomaceous earth on them and around your plants, and that helps deter them. So yeah, that's a few little tricks.
That was one of the things I did do. I tried to keep up on the beer traps, right? But we would get rain, and then that would be fucked, right? And then or the diatomaceous earth again. It's like then it rains, and then or it's wet. It gets wet, and then it's like, well, got to get out there and do it again. It's a pain in the ass.
The neighbor comes over and drinks them in the middle of the night. You get like a ring notification. It's like there's motion in your backyard. It's just a naked guy on all fours.
Yeah, it's hunched over, lapping it up out of the.
One of my things that I'd like to try is the Three Sisters planting. Where you do it with the corn, right? You got the beans, and then is it squash? Any type of variety of squash?
Yeah, there's a couple iterations of that. One is you want like a tall plant, a plant that's going to vine around that tall plant, and then some sort of ground cover. So yeah, like you're saying, you could do like corn, pole beans, and some type of squash, or instead of corn, some people do sunflowers. So yeah, and then you could basically do whatever kind of squash you want. Most people will do like a winter squash, which is a little bit more, aggressive viner, but you could also do like a zucchini or something too if you want to keep it a little bit more compact. And the trick with those too is planting everything at the correct time. So you want to get your corn or your sunflower in first, let it get up a little bit, let it get a couple feet tall, and then plant your pole beans. And then once the pole beans come up, then plant your squash, or like right when the pole beans germinate, or at this you can at the same time too. Depends on the variety. Because I've tried to do it before, or I've seen people do it, and they kind of try to plant everything at the same time, and it just kind of like just becomes a mess. The only thing with those is you will have to, depending on, like I said, what you plant, might have to do a little pruning with stuff just to keep it in check. Because when you have plants growing on other plants, and you kind of let stuff go, they get a little rangy, and so. But other than that, I've done it before. It works.
My tomatoes this year, I didn't train them correctly, and it just became this Lovecraftian ball of tentacles.
That's great. But yeah, I'm gonna try that. I've definitely got a. Now, what about nutrients? So what are you using for your outdoor? Are you planting in the ground as well, or do you like raised beds?
Yeah, so I think for home gardeners, raised beds are definitely the way to go. It's easy to manage because you have like a specific area that you're going to put any of your inputs in. You can monitor a little bit easier. You get better drainage. Just benefits like that. I do mainly in ground just because I'm doing larger size gardens. I think my smallest garden is 40 by 60, and then I also have like a quarter acre, half acre field too. So I've grown in raised beds before, a lot. And then another thing too is like fabric containers, especially for people who don't have big yards, or they're not able really to make a raised bed. Like a 10 or 20 gallon fabric containers is perfect for growing in. So it doesn't have to be anything super special. Just load it with some nice organic, potting soil.
Have you ever messed around with making any hugelkultur beds or anything like that?
Yes, I have. I've made several. I think they're cool. I wouldn't, like I said, they're good for like a home gardener or something if you want to make a couple beds, especially for some type of perennial like asparagus what's that?
So you remember when I made that my big raised beds, how I was lining wood and different type of debris and small stuff like that. So the idea behind it is, at least from my understanding, is that it helps with drought resistance. You're not having to water as much. It's also, you're getting nutrients from the tree and everything breaking down. That's about as far as my knowledge is. And you kind of, the traditional one would be like digging trenches, right, and then laying logs in there, and then smaller debris, and then putting the soil over top of it, and then just planting into that. But from my understanding, it takes like a couple years for it to kind of like the first couple years you're waiting for it to break down. It's not doing great, and then it kind of just gets better with time. From what I understand.
Yeah, basically you're getting all the benefits of a raised bed, and then because you're putting wood and stuff in there, like you were saying before, you got a home for like mycorrhiza and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I like I said before, I recommend people try to plant perennial herbaceous crops on them. So asparagus, strawberries, stuff that is going to kind of be there year after year and is going to grow into that wood over time. So yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I did anyways, because when I built my raised beds, all I did was watch your video and did what you did. So for mine, I did cardboard just to kill the grass, and then a layer of sticks, and then a layer of, I raked the lawn, and then put a layer of grass, and then I put all the dirt on top.
Yeah, there you go.
But I don't know if that was the right thing to do, but
it works.
I would say if you're watching one of my videos, it's probably not the right thing to do.
What happened with you had that drum of leaf ferment you were making?
Remember that? So I forgot to it's still there. Everything, all the materials still in it. So at this point, it's fucked. But yeah, I was supposed to, drain that out, and then I was gonna bottle it up and put it into like a 5-gallon bucket to winter over, and then use in the beginning of the season to kind of get all those microbes and get everything starting to go early in the season. But yeah, as usual, I forgot about it, and it's frozen over out there, so I don't imagine it's worth anything now.
Were you trying to make like an FPJ or something?
Yeah, so basically what I did, I have the KNF book, that green one, not by the original guy, but the one I think everybody knows. I think it's the Regenerative Gardener's Handbook or something like that. And basically what I did was it was going to be taking some sort of leaf material or fruit or whatever. But what I did was I cleaned out a bunch of tall grass and I put it into a big 50-gallon drum, and then I went out into the woods and I grabbed some leaf mold, as much as like kind of like a couple handfuls, as an inoculant. I put that in there and then filled it up with water, and then I ended up adding some labs that I made. And then I just kind of went over and just made sure that all the plant material was below water, and it started breaking down, and it smelled like shit. Smells terrible. But I'll tell you, actually, speaking of that, the soil makers, they're guys that as well. I was over there talking with them, and I had just done the plant material and the leaf mold, and it was smelling so bad. And they're like, dude, just put labs in there. Like that'll cut down on a lot of that smell. And I was like, it's fucking brilliant. He's like, look, this is the thing. He goes, there's all these traditional ways of doing things, right? And they show you what are in the books and what would have been passed down. And that's great and all, but there's ways, like, we've learned since then, like, how to improve things. And those guys are so smart over there. They know their craft for sure. And it's awesome to be able to learn from guys like that, guys like you, that are definitely more versed in the organic stuff.
Yeah, I know them well. They definitely make a good product. So yeah,
I just switched over to them as well. Whenever he comes to visit, I just have him get an order and bring it to me.
Yeah,
nice.
Yep. Yeah, they.
So
I'm good.
Oh, does freezing like ferments like that? Does that screw it up? Because like right now I have two buckets going in the garage, but they're obviously frozen because it's Northeast.
Yeah, I mean, you'll stop whatever microbe activity for the time being, but as soon as they thaw out, they'll become active again, as long as they have like some sort of food source. So I wouldn't say it's lost, just
no,
check them when they thaw out. Like I said before, you can, I don't know, it depends on what you're trying to do, but like an FPJ or something like
sealed with, yeah. So one was they've been going since May. So one of them is a 5-gallon with, it was my first like lawn mow of the spring, and then I sealed it, and then I have one that's just cannabis pieces, but it's only a 1 gallon.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, as soon as they thaw, they should kind of become active again, but they probably smell pretty bad though.
Yeah, I haven't like opened it at all. You
haven't opened it once since then?
No, they've been sealed since May.
Oh shit. Well, you'll have to go open it up after this and tell us what you see.
Go look at the grass ice cube.
Ugh. Yeah, I've seen one of the things that I've wanted to try is those, what are the FFA, where it's the fish, fermented fish amino acids or whatever.
Yeah.
That looks fucking nasty.
Well, if you do it right, and because like with those, you're supposed to, I believe it's like fish and brown sugar is a traditional way to do it. And honestly, if you do it right, you're just kind of making a fish sauce. If you think about it, it's just not. You know what I mean?
I do think about that, and I think it sounds nasty.
Yeah. I just had some.
Let's think about that. We're having Italian tonight.
Yeah, I had a friend who just gifted me some, and it smells fishy, but it's not it's not like bad at all. It doesn't smell like rotten fish, but it definitely smells fishy. So yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to be my. I would like to. So that was the other thing. What is it that you're using for nutrients wise out in your? I mean, you be doing field application, right? So quite a large application. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll use some organic dry amendments. Like rock phosphate. Like chicken feather meal, soybean meal, stuff like that for nitrogen. But then I'm also doing cover cropping and then manure too. So I put down a lot of alpaca manure. I worked on an alpaca farm for a while, helping out there, and so they kindly let me take whatever I want from their pile, and I got them to actually turn it and stuff. So like they used to just kind of make a giant pile, but I got them into turning it and actually breaking it down. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff I have. And then I had chickens. Unfortunately, the coyotes got to them in the fall, but I use them too. I move them around and stuff. So yeah, it's just organic amendments. And like I said, if I fields too, like when I first get a field, I get a soil test and I lime it and do that whole deal.
Did you guys see the news story this week about the 2 cannabis growers that died from guano?
Oh, the back guano. Yeah.
There's some information that's missing that they're just sensationalizing it, right?
Well, I read the article quick, and it seemed like this guy had bats in his house, and he was harvesting the manure out of his own attic, and also too like it. Okay, if you have a bat infestation in your house that's that bad to begin with, you're living in it. Like you obviously can like you know what I mean. It's like that's like people who have like hoarders who have like a bunch of rats or cats or something in their house. Like you're already put yourself in a pretty bad situation, and then you're trying to like use it for I don't know. So it just seems like that was just a bad experience.
There's definitely there's some there's probably much more to the story that we're not being told.
It's like I said, it's probably like a guy who's got like garbage everywhere to begin with to have something like that going on. So
yeah. But it's just another way for them to try to put it in the media of how bad cannabis growers are, or like why we shouldn't be able to grow it at home on our own, because obviously it's unsafe. Look, people are dying from growing weed.
We're eating animal feces.
Yeah.
Fucking wild, dude. Absolutely crazy. But
yeah, when I saw the headline, I was like, oh, are we going to see a Fox Farms recall? And then I read the article and I was like, Jesus Christ, what are these guys doing?
Jesus. It's fucking wild.
But yeah, I mean, I could definitely tell people too, if you're mixing dry amendments or if you're mixing anything like back guano, like just buy a cheap respirator and don't mess up your lungs. So
well, listen, y'all, I do have to head out of here. So I am gonna wrap it up here with us. I do appreciate you joining us today, Corey. I think we'll definitely have to get you back on sometime once we get into the season of growing the tobacco and all this stuff, because I definitely want to pick your brain on more gardening techniques and what kind of stuff you recommend for outdoors. So I appreciate you, and hopefully we can get you back on again. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it as well.
Absolutely. Well, you got anything else to leave us out to lead us out, nerd?
That's it.
Tight. Cool. We'll see y'all later.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Peace.